Hey guys, Abner Miranda here. Today we're going to be covering the different things to consider in regards to a carjacking situation. Whether to shoot, whether to not to shoot, whether to get on the gas, leave the area. And I will tell you right out of the box, I am for getting on the gas and leaving the area. And here's why. I shoot 9mm. And when you consider that 9mm is 115 grains of kinetic energy with limited energy, whereas I ran the numbers on my Toyota Sienna, and I want to say it was 3 million? I forget what it was. Some ridiculous number of grains, right? It was a joke. When I say infinite, meaning because when you press on the throttle, you're basically pouring power on, and as long as something doesn't physically stop the vehicle is actually plowing through whatever object or person is in its path. First and foremost, let's address the main issue that we're all up against when we are going to get hit, when we get hit with a carjacking. We're always going to be dealing with the gap. This is the front of the car, and this is the back of the car that's in front of you. Let's say you're at a traffic light, let's say you're at a stop sign, let's say you're at a railroad crossing, which is one of the things that I constantly find myself in. Railroad crossings where cars get all stacked up. So now you're in the stack, and this is about right for what I'm seeing on a regular basis. People are unaware of what is known as the reactionary gap. The reactionary gap is essentially a gap that you must maintain between the front of your vehicle and the back of the vehicle in front of you in case you have to steer around that vehicle. These shooting dummies that I have set up are actually representative of the exact width of my Toyota Sienna. And to give you an idea of why this is a problem, if you're not far enough back from the vehicle in front of you where you can visualize their tire flat on the ground, basically where their tire would roll on the ground, if you can't see the entire tire touching the asphalt, then you're actually too close to the vehicle, and here's why. Okay, let's say that this guy over here is trying to attack me. The reason is irrelevant. Either he wants me or he wants the vehicle. Big deal. I need to get away from him. I've got this vehicle in front of me. Like before, both of these dummies represent the width of a vehicle out in front of me. If I try to go this way, obviously I'm going directly into the path of the trouble. So I turn my wheel hard right, okay? Now, to actually have the presence of mind to actually turn your wheel hard right before you even begin to move, good luck with that. The fact is, you're probably going to begin moving and then turning, which means you're going to start cutting the distance that you already have to work with, which is why the reactionary gap is such a big deal. But let's just say that I actually have enough presence of mind to turn my wheel all the way to the right, and I begin to try to leave the area. As soon as I get, I want to make sure I don't run over my tripod, as soon as I get right here, I've now made contact. I have now made contact with the vehicle in front of me. And it isn't casual contact because there is still this much of my vehicle that can't get around this vehicle. I still have a good 18 inches of vehicle that I've got to clear past this vehicle. I'm not going to do it without sacrificing my headlight and potentially part of my cooling system and potentially completely jacking up the wheels, the constant velocity joints, suspension systems, steering systems. I'm going to ruin a lot of this vehicle just to try to get away from the attacker that's coming after me. All because I chose to only leave this much gap between the front of my vehicle and the back of this vehicle. Now let's set this back up again and do this from the standpoint of leaving a proper reactionary gap. I know that some of you are thinking that this is excessive. Trust me guys, I have left bigger gaps. My family, my friends no longer ask. They know exactly what I'm doing and they know why I'm doing it. I have so much room here that I can go in either direction. I can go this way, I can go this way. I have all the room in the world I need to do. I could actually exit this area right here and actually go that way, completely over the sidewalk if I had to clear this area because I've left a reactionary gap. People think I'm weird when I do this. I don't really care. Years ago, I was at a vehicle class with Chris Costa, and he said they had to leave reactionary gaps like this when they were in Asia running convoys. And he says you would have people on mopeds zipping around the vehicles, filling that reactionary gap. And you knew that if you got hit, you were going to have no choice but to crush people to get away. But the fact is, this happens all the time. I leave a gap, somebody fills it. I leave the next gap, somebody fills it. It drives my kids crazy because they're learning how to drive and they haven't learned to disassociate the emotion from the reality. The reality is I must maintain a reactionary gap. The reality of that reality is that someone's going to fill that reactionary gap because most people are like, I got to get there as fast as I can, and they stack up in traffic. And when something goes sideways, you're screwed because now you're pinned in your own vehicle. Check out how much mobility I now have with this gap. All right, now, reality check. We're back to this position again. For some reason, I'm really tired. I'm not paying attention. It happens. Every once in a while, I just kind of forget about my reactionary gap. And the funny thing is now my kids go, ooh, Dad, reactionary gap, which is cool because they're learning. But every once in a while, I just get distracted and I forget. And I find myself in this position. And then I think to myself, man, if something breaks bad right now, I'm in trouble. Okay, so the consideration now is this guy that's out here in front of me that says no rifle across his shirt. These are actually rifle plates, but I always put no rifle on them because I don't want other people coming out here and shooting these things from this close with a 16-inch barreled rifle and then ruining my plates. So anyways, this guy out here in front of me is, once again, after me, after the vehicle, for whatever reason may be. And I've done this very foolishly. For whatever the case may be, or perhaps he has he's hit my vehicle so hard with a 1 ounce slug, man, that's a whole lot of damage. So he has physically incapacitated my vehicle. I'm dead in the water. I'm stuck. The considerations that I have now for going to guns, I mean, things have gone from bad to horrendous instantly. Guys, I'm trying to figure out how to distill this for you because the knowledge base that I have for vehicle work is pretty big. And I have expended a lot of rounds, and I say expended rather than invested. I've expended a lot of rounds on what I consider to be the ballistic roller coaster. And I guess I'll pause real quick and tell you what that's about. My mentor, Ken Hackathorn, former Delta operator, he and I were talking about this very subject matter not too long ago. And he said, you know, I understand the reason that instructors are teaching this kind of thing is because of the restrictions of the range they're working on. Guys, I have a lot of leeway. You saw me driving around. I have a lot of leeway out here. I can do a lot of vehicle movement stuff. And the way I teach this is you instantly break contact and you just bail out. You just drive away. When I did my dignitary protection course several years ago, I remember going, wow, we just left, because at that time I was still like, you know, yeah, contact front, you know, and in that class it was contact front, and you were gone, or the thing that normally would happen is if it's contact front, it's J turn to the rear, which by the way is why you want to leave reactionary gaps. That goes down another rabbit trail that I don't want to do. I've had a lot of vehicle training. The reason that a lot of what's being taught is because of the restrictions of the range. So what ends up happening is guys bail out of the vehicle, but they sort of cluster around the vehicle. Not just me, guys, but people who've actually been in combat will tell you, if you're being shot at, this is a bullet magnet. So why in the crap would you hunker down near it? It's bound and cover. It's get out of the vehicle and vacate the area. And so what we are inadvertently doing is we're giving people what I call the ballistic roller coaster. Right, roller coaster. You get in and you strap in, and you're like, woohoo, here we go, and you take off on the roller coaster, right? And it's all kinds of fun. You know, oh yeah, we're doing the loop-de-loop and up and down and everything. And you get to the end of the roller coaster, and where are you at the end of the roller coaster? At the exact same spot, literally at the exact same spot where you began. Well, if you're in a vehicle and you yank your gun and you start, yeah, snitches, get it here, right? And you're laying down a withering wall of fire. At the end, you're in the same exact spot where you were when you began. Because bullets, whether they come from handguns, whether they come from rifles, whether they come from AKs, precision guns, guys, we've done it all. I have stood there and watched a Honda Passport absorb 12 gauge AK, Remington 700. I mean, this vehicle sucked everything up. I watched us pour everything we could into this vehicle, trying to get a clean shot from one side of the vehicle to the other, from one of the windows cleanly out to hit to get a good solid hit. And bullets, I mean, look, this distance right here, if this were a bad guy that you were shooting at, from this distance right here, you'd miss him, because the bullet leaving the windshield goes like this, and it would actually whiz right past this guy's head. Yeah, he'd get fragmentation of the bullet and the glass, but if he's wearing ANSI glasses like this, it's going to suck up the projectiles, and he's going to continue fighting because you pissed him off and you made him bleed, but you didn't take the fight out of him. So shooting through vehicles, shooting through glass, shooting through body panels is the ballistic roller coaster. I do not teach it. And the beauty of what I have out here is we don't have to do any of that. All we have to do is break contact and split. The gap that you want to work with is this gap right here. If this guy is continuing to move in my direction and I have no choice but to go to gun, the first priority is I have to get the door open, and then I have to stop the door from coming back at me, which is why I've planted my foot hard against it. Now I can work right here. I've got a fair amount of cover between this piece of metal and this piece of metal. I've got a fair amount of cover that I can work with on this guy. He has difficulty actually really getting a clear image of where I am in relation to all the objects that are around me in the vehicle. So instantly I can start working on him. Remember, if the door flies open, he thinks I'm going to bolt on him, but in reality, I've opened the door and now I start returning fire on him right here. So now I've complicated his plan. The reason I would prefer not to get out of this vehicle unless I absolutely have to, unless he's incapacitated the vehicle, is if I get out of this vehicle, come back around the car and I hightail it. I don't even bother turning until I'm here. So now I turn, and now I figure out where this guy is. Okay, he's still down. And guess what? I never saw you. I never saw you. Look how close you are to me. At this point, it's basically 1, 2, and you're on me. So now you get up on me, and now I'm screwed, because now I realize that I missed what I was actually supposed to be missing. He was attacking me, and you were attacking me, which is why I go back to what I've said before. I really, really do not want to get out of this vehicle if I can avoid it. I go back to the first thing that I presented you guys with. The first segment of this video, you never even saw a gun, because there are millions of grains of infinite kinetic energy that I'm in control of right here. The best thing for me to do before anything ever even becomes an issue is leave a reactionary gap at all times, no matter what I do, no matter where I go. Leave a reactionary gap. Know the capabilities of my vehicle. Know that this vehicle must be disposable. My mindset of whatever I'm driving is, I'm going to use you up to keep my family safe. I am going to do everything and anything I can to expend the life out of this vehicle before I have to force myself to get myself and my people out of this vehicle and get on foot. Remember, guys, whether it's a true vehicle hit, whether it's just a carjacking, it's still technically a kill box. You're sitting in their kill box. If you can get out of their kill box by maybe even 20, 25 feet, just a little further down the road, you're now out of the kill box. You have now frustrated their plan, and you have now, actually, here's what it is. You have now actually gotten inside of their OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. Guys, OODA is one of those things where if you get OODA, you really truly respect OODA. If you don't get OODA because you're part of the military machine that refused to respect Colonel Boyd, then you're not going to get OODA. You have been institutionally trained to disrespect OODA. OODA is real. If I can get inside your OODA loop, if I can ruin, you've observed and you've oriented the attacker. The attacker has observed and he's oriented to me, right? I've observed, let's say I'm the bad guy. I've observed that I'm going to hit this vehicle inside of this space. I have observed it, I've oriented it, and I've now decided for the action. And as soon as he begins the action, I automatically take the action away from him, because I now got inside of his OOD. I didn't let him get to the A, action part. As I come to a stop, I'm already observing, and then I'm orienting myself to everything that's around me. If you guys were in the vehicle with me, you would see me. Every time I come to a stop, I just quickly look around me. It's not like I'm thinking like I'm gonna get hit anytime. No, it's just It's just a habit that I have, guys. It's just a habit. I grew up in Orlando, Florida. Okay? It's a habit you get into in Orlando. You're always looking around you. So I know that to some people this video is kind of anticlimactic because I didn't fire a single round. Guys, I was never intending on firing a single round in or around or whatever this vehicle. I have learned enough to know not to discharge firearms from inside of vehicles or even around vehicles if I can avoid it. My thing is break contact and move. I'll leave you with this. Vehicles are ablative armor. And no, those of you who think, yeah, man, the older the car, the more bullet resistant it is. No, the newer the car, the more bullet resistant they are. We found that new vehicles sucked up rounds like we could not imagine. I mean, we're like, why are we not able to get rounds through these cars? Because today's cars are designed to ablate. Ablate means to peel away. Crumple zones, all the materials, all the insulation inside these vehicles, and there's a crap ton of wiring inside these vehicles. All that stuff deflects and defeats rounds like you cannot imagine. Guys, truly, like you cannot imagine. You are actually driving a semi-armored vehicle in that it's designed, actually look at it this way. Today's cars are designed to defeat impact. And we'll leave it at that. I know you guys are going to have comments. Fire away. I'll do my best to answer them. As always, I thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Get those guns out in practice. Have a good one.